What's going on, everyone? Today is January 24th, 2024. It is your midweek review. Henry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Alrighty. Hope everyone is doing well. A couple of things to note before we get into the charts. Tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., you have advanced GDP quarterly being released, as well as unemployment claims being released. Those are the two red folders. Some orange folder news also being released at 8:30 is the GDP price index, the core durable goods orders, and the durable goods orders. Those always trip me up. And then 10 a.m. you do have new home sales. Friday, 8:30. Core PCE price index month on month, and then 10 o'clock you have some more home sales. So a little bit more news tomorrow than Friday to end out the week. Other than that, nothing too crazy on my part. Markets have been moving a little bit, but not a whole lot. So we will see where we end the week. Henry, you got anything?
That's it for me. We're excited to see you all on Sunday. We may have a bit of news for you. And let's get into this review.
Alrighty, DXY on a weekly. Monthly has not really changed. Really, dollar has been ranging. This week, as you can see, we took out the previous week's high. Now we've came back down. We've been using this weekly CIBI, right? We were wondering if we were going to use it as inversion, and as so far we have been. You can see the consequent encroachment has respected nicely. We almost got an immediate rebalance in here, but we have not quite yet done that. We also, looking at this as an order block, right? You use the halfway point. We're still respecting that mean threshold. So really, we're at a dead standstill at Wednesday, 7 p.m. We are at a dead standstill, both in the middle of this weekly range. When you go into the daily, a couple things to note, right? What I will be watching for going into the week is all on the daily. So you have previous week's high being taken out on Tuesday, right? Price is now still respecting, with regards to the closure, this daily CIBI. We have now fully filled this CIBI, and we close back above the consequent encroachment. If we are going to continue lower, I would not want any 4-hour or higher closure above the consequent encroachment of Tuesday's wick, right? If we are going to go lower on dollar, I would want this high to hold, but preferably I would like to see 4-hour and higher closure below the consequent encroachment of it. If we start to give way of this consequent encroachment, my eyes are now automatically going to the buy side. If we are going to go higher, same thing. I'd like to see this get invalidated, but then also I would really like us to hold this low. So I think one of these two throughout the week are going to be either Tuesday is going to be the high and Wednesday is going to be the low. One of the two. I don't know. That's the thing, is I'm not sure. I need more data. We're literally still ranging. All we've been doing is consolidating in this. You can see we've had the seek and destroy template. If you can see the way price has been moving, right? We're getting that type of template on dollar right now. The only thing that keeps me from thinking that we could go higher is that we still have left this unfilled. But I'm okay with leaving this unfilled. It worries me, and I would really like to see how price plays on the consequent encroachment of this wick. So really, if we go a little bit deeper on a 4-hour, a couple things to note too, right? You have a very clear breaker. Because I don't need this on the hours. You had a breaker in here, right? So if we're going to go lower, you'd like to see this respect. You can see where we closed. We had a CIBI in here. So overall, we could potentially, right? Buy side liquidity has been taken in the form of the previous week's high. All of this has been filled. We have inefficient price down here. That could call for price to go lower. I like that better than price going higher, but we're still in the middle of the range and there's still not a whole lot of data, right? I would prefer price to go lower and fill this before the idea that we go higher. I do not like the idea of us going higher without filling this. So keep that in mind. right? I prefer price going lower for the rest of the week to potentially and or consolidate to potentially then come lower. And then if for whatever reason we fill this and close back up somewhat into this CIBI, I still would like price to maybe go higher. But for now, I like price going lower. I'm not going to go further than a 4 hour. You know, you have the breaker, you have this CIBI, you have an inverted BISI right here, right? So maybe price wants to play in here and then start to fall tomorrow. Obviously, you do have some price action above here. You've got an inverted BISI. You also have a CIBI in here on a 4 hour. So there's several different arrays you could sit here and study if you wanted to. Looking at projections too, using this swing, right? If I go from here to here and I pull out the extensions, notice if you're looking to see potential areas, right? This -1 lines up around these relative equal lows. -1.5 lines up around the consequent encroachment. So there's some areas potentially there. I think that's really it. If you want to look at the equilibrium from this move to this move, I would also study that. Right? Look at that. Notice how we've delivered now into a premium. But it is very, with the way indices have been moving, indices have still showed a willingness to go higher, and dollars just now starting to maybe show that we can go lower, but it's been ranging, so there's not a whole lot that I can gain from it. To me, I say dollar goes lower so far from my head, as long as we can remain 4 hour closure below this. I think we continue to go lower and take this and then potentially this. Overall, higher time frames, right? Low, high, lower low, lower high, and then just trying to see if we can come back down into this range, right? I think because it's so early in the year, as Michael says, the year is young. I wouldn't necessarily see us trying to break out of this range this early in the year. I think we could potentially still consolidate. Could be wrong. Other than that, I'm good on everything. I think I've said everything so far on dollar. So, Henry, I will let you have it.
All right. All right, we'll take a quick look at indices here. Starting with ES on the weekly chart. You can see how in the past few weeks, we traded down into the BISI here between this candle's high and this candle's low, right into there, and the overlapping high here, and then working higher off of that. And on Sunday's call, we talked about how if price is going to continue higher after reaching through this high right here, ideally we see a new BISI created, which is what we're seeing form right here. So ideally on the weekly chart, in the remainder of the week, if the expectation is that price will continue higher from here, this candle will not come down all the way to this candle's high. Because if it did, it would fill in this inefficiency. Whereas right now, as it currently stands, we would have a new inefficiency created right here. So ideally, this can come back into this range a little bit, but ideally does not come all the way back down to that candle's high right there. Same idea on the daily chart, which we talked about on Sunday. If we were going to see that further expansion up toward the projection targets, which we take from the swing low to the swing high and use this as the fulcrum point, and we're projecting half a standard deviation and then one full standard deviation. So up to here and then up to here. If we were going to continue higher up to those points, we would want to see a new inefficiency created on the daily chart. So on Monday, like we talked about, we got consolidation, and it did not trade down to Thursday's high, which means a new BISI was formed in here. That's good. That's bullish order flow. And we can see how price failed to even come back into that on Tuesday, showing that it was very bullish and continued working up on Tuesday. And then again today on Wednesday, reaching into that half standard deviation just above it and then coming back off into the end of the day. So now just taking a look at the daily chart, what to look for going into the rest of the week. You want to be aware of the inefficiencies that exist below. So we have the daily BISI down here, and we have the volume imbalance created here, which is also you can find your new week opening gap within there. There is a small volume imbalance here as well between these two candles, and then this volume imbalance here as well. So a lot of inefficiency created inside of here to be aware of on the downside. And then above you, concerning premium arrays, what you want to do is take your fib and put it on this wick like that, and just find the consequent encroachment at the midpoint. As you can see, 49.16 3/4. So look at this as a premium array here and see what response occurs up there if price does trade back up into that midpoint. So if you get an hourly candle closing above this, then my expectation would be that we continue work up toward the buy side up here. If you do not see hourly closure above it, then the likelihood is that we work down into some of these inefficiencies existing in price right here. So I'm not necessarily expecting a whole lot for the remainder of the week.
Can I interrupt really quick? Because I know that
ahead.
we had a question in the community today from Mauricio, and he was wondering what would invalidate the high of the week scenarios on indices, being today being Wednesday, and usually Wednesday on a week like this week would usually put in the lower the high. What's going to be a big indicator to your invalidation is what Henry just talked about. It's going to be that consequent encroachment of the wick that we put in today, and understanding that, because really we don't know how price is going to react off of that BISI that we're looking at right there, all those inefficiencies and BISIs that are sitting below us. If we get into it and we just kind of sit in it and let the week close, there you go. Wednesday's your high of your week. But if we, for whatever reason, are not necessarily just going to sit in it and we're sensitive to it, and price goes right back up in and around that consequent encroachment that he's pointing out right now, 49.16, if we are reactive of those inefficiencies and BISIs below us, then Wednesday might not be the high of the week, right? So if you're looking at what's going to invalidate us, well, there's two things that I'm potentially looking at. One, if we do go back down into those inefficiencies that Henry just outlined, that volume imbalance and that inefficiency below us, if we go back down into that, how are we going to react following, right? Do we close in it, and or do we dip down in it, do kind of like an institutional order flow entry drill, and then pop right back up, and now we're right back up, where we closed today? So it's kind of that idea of the invalidation is going to be how we react based off that BISI, and really that 49.16 3/4 level, and how that wants to necessarily hold. Just wanted to add that in there. I saw that you asked about it, and so I figured I'd go ahead and answer it right now, because Henry just kind of explained what I would be looking for myself also with regards to if that high that we put in today is going to hold. It's going to hold really if we just consolidate in and around those efficiencies, because we are still bullish. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah, great, perfect. Yeah, so just watching these inefficiencies, watch for how price responds there, and then of course up at the premium array right here. If we do extend through this high, then you can start looking for this one standard deviation up here. And I will go to the continuous chart real quick as well, so we can see what exists above us from old price data. And we can see that, jump to a weekly chart, should be a bit clearer. You can see we've purged this old weekly high back here. And then just looking at these previous week's highs as well. So we have this one here, which on your daily chart you could see as a swing high, and then above here. So the next area in price to look for above the high that has been made this week would be that 49.59.5 level. Okay, that is it for ES. NASDAQ, same idea here. To continue the bullish order flow, we'd like to see that new inefficiency created, which we're seeing here on the weekly chart. So ideally, this does not get closed in by Friday, leaving an inefficiency in here. On the daily chart, same idea with the projections. Swing low to the swing high, the fulcrum point of this full dealing range right here. Projecting that, so we get a half standard deviation and then one standard deviation up here as price targets. And then you can see exactly what we talked about on Sunday's call. So if we were going to see further expansion to the upside out to these targets, we wanted to see Monday as a consolidation day, and then for Tuesday to return down into a new inefficiency created, and then continue to work higher. So you see that Tuesday we dropped below Monday's low into the BISI right here, which is between this candle's high and this candle's low. I'll mark it out so it's a bit clearer, including the volume balance right there. See how Tuesday dropped into it and then worked higher through the rest of Tuesday's action in the afternoon, and then pretty much all day until the PM session where we came back off today. So now just sitting in the upper portion of the weekly range, we do have these inefficiencies that exist below. This BISI can be revisited, and you also have the volume imbalance right here and right here. And then again, in terms of premium arrays, looking at the midpoint of today's wick. So if you get hourly closure back above this, you could likely expect the price to trade back up toward the high end or even above Wednesday's high. And if we fail to get that hourly closure, then look to these areas of price below. On the continuous chart, NASDAQ has made, to as far as I can see, a new all-time high. Right there, purging the highs from back in November of 2021. So just be conscious of this. Now that a new high has been made, anyone who's been very long-term bullish from down here, adding in here, adding in here, adding in here, adding in here, and then selling a position above these highs. While I do think we could extend deeper above these highs, and of course further out, given the precedent that indices have continuing higher and higher and higher. Now that the highs have been purged, that does give the opportunity for a retracement back into the range. So just be cautious if you do continue to take long opportunities. Be aware of the fact that the buy side has been purged, and runs above the high may not be as extensive or as low resistance as you saw in this area here. Okay, that's pretty much it for me. Carson, any last thoughts on NASDAQ?
No, the only thing I would say is now that we took that all-time high, there's 6 days left in the year, or not, 6 days left in the month. So be curious to note what that monthly closure looks like if we close above the ATH, or if we close above that high, or if we close below that high. It's just something I'd be curious to know going forward. You know, if for whatever reason we close above it, I think that we could maybe have a little bit more of a prolonged, extensive run up higher. If we close below it, we very well could just kind of get a little quick short retracement lower also. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And we'll talk about that obviously on the Sunday call and as we approach them closer to month end. Other than that, that's it for me. I know Henry said that we may or may not have some presents for y'all on Sunday. So come bearing. And that's it for me.
That's all on my end. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Stay safe, be responsible.
Trade safe. Do your training exercise if you haven't already. I have not done mine yet, so I will be doing mine probably tomorrow. And don't forget to submit them.
Perfect. See y'all on Sunday.
Peace.